So, hello. Like a like a term paper, I put it off the last minute. I'm supposed to go over to Maine tomorrow to help build a fence around the GCO, and won't be around for a few days. And I promised I'd get this video out. So, where a couple questions that came from you growers. Do you want to plant them in pairs? And the answer is yes, sort of. Nothing wrong with a single chestnut tree, but it won't have any chance of having edible fruit or plantable fruit, viable fruit. They have to have two to cross-pollinate. Even though each tree is male and female, they won't self-pollinate. So yeah, if the safety thing would be to plant three within 50 or 100 feet. You want to get them at least 30 feet apart or 20 feet apart. It's all a big experiment. In other words, we're looking at an orchard here that's got 30 trees. They're 10 to 12 feet apart in each direction, with the hope that they flower, they stay healthy, they flower, we can reach them from a stepladder. They're being used for future pollination and not to look at a nice chestnut orchard. Remember, anything you plant is going to get blight. You just have to get used to that. It's just the way it is. Some of them will grow real big. I think I've shown you some. There's some pretty beautiful trees right here that are 8, 10 years old. One of them's 20 years old. And then I've got some that are 3 years old with blight. You never quite know where it's going to show up. But this is all a step toward hopefully coming up with a blight-resistant tree. So yeah, if you think they're going to live long enough, and you're going to live long enough for them to have fruit, I mean, if they're real happy, they'll flower in 4 to 5 years, maybe even 3 if you're lucky, 4 to 5, more likely 6 to 7. In the woods, they probably don't often flower until they're 30 or 40 or 50 years old because they're waiting for a spot to grow in. Can you put them in a bigger pot? I've got the size pots you guys used right here. You could grow them in a 5-gallon bucket all summer. You can experiment, do anything you want. You can make them into a patio. They'll be a nice tree to look at and talk with and get people interested. So you can up pot them into a pot with holes in the bottom so they'll drain. These are the bigger size pots, which I've actually never used before. There was an experiment this year. The thing I like about them, they'll stand upright. These things, you can't stand them upright. They tip over. And should you prune side leaves? A couple people asked that, and the answer would be no. This one, the other one we're going to plant in a minute, does have side branches coming off of it. No, you don't want to, probably better not to prune a tree at all. Even when they're growing, I think it's better not to. You're opening up wounds that can have blight in them, and they kind of know what they want. So this is a pretty good looking tree. Where to plant? Where to plant? I like it. One of my tree growing, he's actually a horticulturalist. He said they have had a guest speaker, and somebody said, what's the best soil to plant a tree? And he said, northern glacial mineral soil, which is what we got. So as long as it's not wet, the most important thing, just get used to using a shovel. Like right here, if you take a scoop and you look underneath, flip it over and you look underneath, and that's still nice and dark down there, and the roots are down in there, that's great. A tree will be very happy. I can go right down there, and 3 inches down, it's very sandy. So I dig a bigger hole and put some soil in it. So we're going to plant one right here. So if you're planting out in your lawn, remember, sunlight is the most important. Well, soil is the most important, and sunlight. Full sun. If you want to have a good tree, you got to give them full sun. Start with you should have a sharp shovel. It doesn't need to be super sharp. This one's actually gotten pretty dull. But I put it in a vise and take a hand file to it, or an electric grinder. It really does help a lot. So you're going to strip off the topsoil, go around, make a circle. This is real easy. Sometimes it's real hard digging. If you have good grass, this is not very good grass. And then you come in from the side and you can kind of just peel off the top, set it aside for future use. So this soil is good. It's not super dark black, but there's plenty of organic matter there. So you're going to dig yourself a pretty nice when you don't hit rocks. Dig yourself a hole. It's got to be deep enough, so you take your pot. We're going to plant this one here, and this is, and here's the other thing I want to make sure you know. You want to put a tag on them. Actually, it's not as important because yours are generic wild type trees. These are all known pedigrees. So this one is Tro Road times Hospice North. So our vice president there, Kurt Laffin, hand pollinated, took pollen from, the first one is always the mother tree, the female flowers. So he went to Hospice North, cut off some catkins in about beginning of July, and artificially pollinated, put a bag over it, and harvested the nuts. So this is a known cross. And these tags are wonderful. I feel like I'm a salesperson for them, but this particular tag, I can, what the heck, I put them right here somewhere. But anyways, this particular tag lasts. It doesn't corrode in the soil. I put them on with zip ties. They come with little metal wire ties. I don't like them at all, but I love these little, just a little zip tie. You got to remember as the tree grows to put a bigger zip tie on, get it up on a side branch. So this is, it's just about deep enough, and this is such good soil. I'm not going to worry too much. It doesn't need to be much bigger than that. Loosen it up a little, take a little more out. And I do this, some people think it's cheating. I give them a little sugar water, which is just regular old 10-10-10 fertilizer, very cheap at the hardware store. You don't need to get anything fancy. I always put a handful or two in, and then you want to make sure that the roots aren't touching it, so you dig it in well, stir it up from the edges. If you have poor soil and you're adding soil, you do want to have a little bigger hole because you don't want to have the bathtub effect where the roots hit the poor soil and start circling. So I'm not seeing any fertilizer there, so we're good to go. Take a little bit out, check the depth. You always want to treat a little, well, you'll see. I'm going to build a mound around it for easy watering. You don't want to really get it any deeper than where it originally was. So here's the trick to these things. You got to do a really strong shake. If you try and gently shake it out, I mean, you can cut it out, cut the pot apart, but if you do a gentle shake, sometimes it falls apart. Usually, we'll see, strong shake, it comes out in one piece. There's enough roots there, it's not going to do great here. But here's the trick, is to not losing that root ball. So, see the taproot all the way at the bottom, right there? There's the taproot, there's the little ones. If I let go, you set that tree way, way back. That's why you often want to have a second person. So I'm going to tip this over. I've done it enough. I didn't lose. I actually didn't do that very well, but these things are pretty resilient. So back that in. I'm going to pull it up a little. So I want to get that ground level. That's good. And drag everything in. I'm still holding that thing, and then you let it go, and there you go. So you firm it up. You don't want to jump on it, but you do want to get the air pockets out. So you firm it up. Don't jam right at the pot. Make sure that that label is where you'll see it in the future. Now what I do is I like to take the top and make my barricade, the dam. There's an earthworm, like I was telling you, invasive species. There you go. So you make, on the downhill side, build that dam. Just think, okay, when you fill it with water, I don't need to bake it up here. So that's going to hold a goodly amount of water. Now here's what I like to do. I take this stuff here. This is weed control fabric, heavy duty, pretty cheap. You get it at the hardware store. I really like the permeable stuff much better than plastic. It's really Tyvek. You can blow right through it. So when it rains, it's pretty natural. The water goes down, and this, so you fold it in quarters, and you take your scissors, which are right here, and you cut off a semicircle, and presto, just like a magician, set it over it. And what this will do is this will keep the roots from, the weeds from coming up. Now, the secret sauce, wood chips. They're wonderful. You take wood chips and you build your mound around it. Once it's down, you can, you don't need this fabric. It's fine without it, but it just means for less weeding. So then, put a big dose of it right here. And cover it all up. Won't even know it's there until the silly chickens come and uncover it. That's one problem here. They keep coming and scraping off my wood chips, but if you don't have chickens. Okay. So there you go. You got a wonderful little well for the water. If it's blowy, I actually will often take these chips and push right against it, and it'll help it, instead of having to put a little stake down in. Now this is what you want to be careful. That kind of a wind will set this plant way back, maybe even kill it. Forgot to talk about timing. This is too early. Southern New Hampshire, southern Vermont, you can be planting now, but you have to be willing to cover them if it frosts, just like a tomato. I like it. Here is a nut I put outdoors, planted it outdoors. There's where nature wants to be. Trees, nuts that were planted by a squirrel or a blue jay would be that big right now. They know not to leaf out until after the frost. We've forced them ahead, and a frost will kill this tree. I think this is a great trick. I really like these sheetrock buckets. I love this. You put that there, and you basically, it's in a hothouse. The wind won't hit it. Even a heavy rain or a hailstorm won't tip it over. I've actually got a little hole in this one to let the heat out. On a hot day, it can get awfully warm in there, but it's like a greenhouse. It works great. And then if you have a frost, you put something on top. That's why this doesn't work if you put one in the side. And then you put a rock on there. And I've planted a lot of trees early. Well, even if you plant them the beginning of June, you get it. If you get a couple of late frosts, I've got about 20 or 30 of these. You go put them on, and even if it's not a frost, when it's cold or windy, you want that seedling protected. I'm not going to be planting them for a couple of weeks here probably, but people that want to get started or think about it, that's a good little trick. Here's another thing, very widely recommended, to put a rodent guard around the tree. If you look here, I don't have a rodent guard, and I don't believe I've lost one tree to a rodent, to a mole or a vole or a... But if you take hardware cloth and cut it, and take your zip ties, still don't know where I put them, but anyways, you put a couple of zip ties to hold it, and you take this and you kind of work it down in. Now this would be ideally, you'd be back down to the soil. You do this before you pull the chips. It works pretty darn well. You do that and you kind of jiggle that in a little bit into the soil, and then you can pull your chips back around it. I can let go of that. I've done this. I've had them this tall. This wouldn't stop a turkey from reaching over and grabbing the nut, and it wouldn't keep a raccoon out. Knock on wood. I don't have much problem with varmints, but there's a lot of things that can happen to your tree. I actually put these all out on the deck 3 days ago, and I can't believe it. I forgot them. I showed you putting them out, and then I forgot them. The end of the day, it had been windy, and they were feeling paper dry. I know I set them back, but they're good buds coming. There's one way to plant them. Another way, maybe I won't show you, but you can go right in the garden. In other words, you can put all your trees in your garden if you want, and the second year they're easy to move. So you can let them grow. By the end of the season, they should be this tall if they're happy. Remember to water these. I didn't bring that, but you know, right now I'd be putting most of a bucket, flood it right out, and then come back in 20 minutes and put some more, and then if you have a hot sunny day, water them. keeping them watered the first season is very important. Get those roots going, then you don't have to water them again. Usually, although last summer was so dry, I did quite a lot of hose watering of these guys. So I guess I won't show you the next one, but I've got just a post hole digger, and you just go in the garden. Well, you can do it with a shovel, or you can just take your post hole digger and just dig a hole like that and set her down in. Sometimes you want a second person there while you hold it and they backfill. The trick is you don't want to, usually they hold together better than that one. This one was there, so here's one that spent the winter outside. I thought they'd certainly be dead, and they're all budded out. This thing's gonna take off like a rocket ship. And this one, knock on wood, yeah, that'll stay together fine. Look at this poor thing. Look at all these roots. Came to the edge, grew down right there. Look at those roots, big woody roots. So that's no trouble with that thing falling apart. That would be simple to plant. Can put that one right back together. This is a Jones orchard from Maine. Was planted March 30th last year, and we didn't find a home for a bunch of them, and we thought they'd be dead this spring, and most of them are alive. So once again, these trees want to grow. They really want to grow. They're ready to go. Did I bring it? I meant to bring it. I got distracted. Funny. I was going to show you an oak tree that looks just about the same size. They're kind of fun to plant too. Once you get good at chestnuts, planting acorns is the same thing. Couple of these trees, if you take a look, right now, you know, they're getting the setting sun. This is leafing out beautifully. I think I might have showed you this before, but this is a pretty classic example. I dug this tree up in the woods. We're hoping, you know, Kendra said it's an American, a wild type American. We hope it is. And if I had to look, I'd almost say, well, I don't know whether that's blight or whether that's just, but anyways, there's the tree I planted 2 years ago. And here's the shoot, came just like a rocket ship right up here. It's passing this one. By the end of the year, this one will be up here, and this one will have either died or stalled out. Should you cut it off? Once again, the less cutting you do, the better, although it's a little tempting to nip that one off. I probably will. Oh yeah, I wanted to show you this. These are pretty cool. We went to central New Hampshire. Someday I'll send a video out to an incredible set of ghost trees that are still standing. They're almost unbelievable. I don't think there are many left anywhere. These are ones that died 100 years ago and they're still standing. A little hard to believe where they died. Well, a minimum of 1940, 50. A minimum of 70 years ago, and they're still standing. And under them are lots of offspring. Old root sprouts, so we took a crew down, dug them up, and here's one of them, and here's another one. They don't look like much, but they're leafing out. I just planted them 2 days ago, and they haven't wilted. You know, it's brutal to go into the forest and chop these roots that are coming. And we had a good crew with sharp shovels, and we got nice forest duff out. Actually, I think I showed you that. And anyways, here it is. A few days later, I gave it a drink of water this morning. Try and remember to give it some more water. I expect this will probably send up a vigorous shoot. If there's enough living tissue down there, it's probably not going to be too happy, but it'll send up a shoot. And there's another one, which I will tie that up to help a little bit. And so kind of bouncing around here on instructions, but I just thought I should pull the trigger and do it. Have fun with them. Like I say, you can put them in your garden and watch them grow all summer. Put them this far apart, get nice bark chips around them, and then next spring it's easy to dig up a 1-year-old tree. Very easy. You just pop it right out of the ground. You can put it wherever you want. 2-year-old tree is pretty hard. By 1-year tree, the taproot will be down here somewhere, and 2-year-old tree, you're not going to get it out of the ground. You're going to have to cut it off. But we've transplanted 3-year-old trees, and they do pretty well, although I'm not sure that we don't make them more susceptible to blight, all that trauma. So I'll try and get this in the mail to you, and good luck. Send questions.